How is everybody doing today? How's everybody doing? Time now is 4:38. I think it's saying 4:38 p.m. in the afternoon. Spontaneous hangout, spontaneous stream. Some of you right now it's 11 o'clock in the night. Some of you it's earlier. But we're going to talk about Justice League. We're going to go from Parademons, as you can see there in the title, all the way on to looking at worlds, the different worlds in the DCU. The DCU is very interesting in that it explores so much, and we're going to say quite a lot. But we also have to talk about some relevant social issues. But before I even do that, you know I have to get into the word. And so we're going to start off Psalms 119, which we've been in for weeks now. And we're looking at verses 133 to 136. It's very interesting. It goes like this. Order my steps in your word. Don't let any iniquity have dominion over me. Deliver me from the oppression of man. So will I keep your precepts. Make your face to shine upon your servant and teach me your statutes. Rivers of water run from my eyes because they don't keep your words. Roseanne Barr very recently made a statement comparing the human being to a monkey. Was a racist statement. And everybody's coming down on her, rightfully so. And she's lost her job because of it. It's not something she's alien to doing. She's done it before. But do you think, let's be real here, do you think Roseanne Barr is the only person to do this sort of thing and to think these kinds of thoughts? Of course not. But here's the thing that this scripture is saying. Even you and I are tempted sometimes to think we're superior to other people and to put other people down so we can feel well and make it into a joke. But see, those tendencies are what we're talking about. When David speaks here, he says, don't let any iniquity have dominion over me. This is what he's talking about. These kinds of things that go through every person's mind. At some point, mean thoughts pass through our minds. But do we let these mean thoughts control us? Do we meditate on how someone has done us wrong so much that we want to do them back wrong? That's where evil can have dominion over you. It goes on to say, deliver me from the oppression of man. Do you know that sentence is generally understood to mean someone is oppressing you, the oppression of man. But let's look at it from a different perspective for a minute. The oppressors are actually slaves to a spirit, a mean spirit, an evil spirit, which may be because someone oppressed them. Now, think about this. Oppression doesn't just come without cause. It doesn't just happen for no reason. It's thoughts that go into people's heads and ideas which have control over them. They may have used reasoning to come to those ideas. But then once those ideas they hold on to, they're afraid to let them go. That's what we call evil spirit. And the oppression of man is not so much by other men as it is by their own thoughts, thoughts they have received and held on to. If I seek to bully someone, it may be because I have been bullied in my life by my parents, maybe, or someone else. But the point is, I accepted that as a reality, that someone must be bullied and someone else must do the bullying, that the weak are to be oppressed and the strong to stand and do the oppression. Somewhere in that mind, the person decided that the idea was, I'm not going to be bullied, so I will bully. See, that's the way how the world is. And that's why some people are afraid. We think they're racist, but really they're afraid. They are fearful because they have been the ones in control. They have been the ones dishing out the punishment to others. They have been the ones characterizing others as evil because they're minorities or weak. And so instead of helping the weak, which is counterintuitive, they instead oppress the weak so that they themselves wouldn't be oppressed because they fear being oppressed. Now, when you think of things in that perspective, you understand what David is saying in the scripture very strongly. He's speaking about staying away from that spirit, and that the oppression of man is actually through a spirit. That's why a lot of people talk about the devil and Shaitan or Satan. Satan literally means, the definition of the word Satan means against goodness, against God, the adversary. So that Satan is just another word for adversity or an adversary to goodness. That's all it means. It's a spirit. So wherever there is good, if you see evil, then Satan has something to do with it. Now, having that understanding, when you read this scripture, it makes sense. And now you can apply it to everyday situations. When you can understand God as more of an idea or a virtue or a value or a quality or a characteristic, now it is easy to understand what you're seeing. And then it's easy to understand if you are under the control of something good or something evil. Everyone must buy into and believe something. And as a result of that, whatever you believe, you are a slave to. You are now under the rulership of that thing you believe. So that this is where we speak about the oppression of man being things which put man into bondage because he believes them to be true. Now you can understand why there's racism. Now you can understand why in an economy people are greedy and they only think of themselves instead of others, especially big corporations, which are considered individuals as well. So once you understand these things, now with that understanding, you can learn something better. As we learned in The Matrix, and I like to use science fiction a lot because science fiction actually has a level of truth to it. Even though it's written in fiction, there's always truth to it. Remember when Trinity says to Neo, remember Trinity, the triunity. Trinity says to you, Neo, which is the new one. Trinity says to Neo, you've been down that road before, Neo. You know where it ends. And Neo, that's all he needed to know. See, there are well-trodden ways in life, and then there's this new way. And this new way I've taken time to talk to you guys about. You know it. You know it, and you've experienced it. At least the other end of it, where someone has done you good things. This way is not as strange to you as you think. Just that there's more to it than meets the eye. If you want to know more about who Jesus is, you don't have to ask me or anyone. You can just ask him. He's not really a he. That's another story for another day. If you want to know who God is, just ask him. Again, he's not a he, but it doesn't matter. That's the truth. Now, let's get into what we're going to talk about today. But we've already started it, really. Nonetheless, let's get into it. Oh, there's one more thing I want to say about this scripture before I move on. Notice he's saying, order my steps in your way, or your word, or your goodness. Let me explain what I understand that to be. Walking the path of goodness every day, as we say it's walking, means putting one foot in front of the others, means doing one act after another, means incorporating and processing one thought after another. Okay? So, because of that, he's asking goodness, which is God, to let him structure and flow in such a way that his thoughts, his actions, all correspond and lead to good things. No matter how many possibilities he's going to be involved in, no matter how many different ways you can do that, he just wants it to be something that builds on the goodness of what he's done before. Why that's important is because he says something that I don't know if any of you caught. He says, rivers of water run down my eyes because they do not keep your words. He's talking about now the people who are actually victim to the oppression, the evil spirit. He is crying for them because he understands they're in bondage to that which they believe. Racism is just one of many things in this world which keep people in bondage. Not only the people who racism is directed to, but the very people who also display racism. It is a way of putting people in bondage. They're not free. They're not free to interact with every person and to judge them just based on their relationships with them. Racism makes you put up a wall and try to push people out of your life, leaving you isolated to only a certain group of people. Love goes beyond that and allows us to reach people who would never, in our wildest dreams, ever meet. I told you guys about telepathy and so many other things. As your heart grows for the world, and as you look out there and you hear all kinds of things, not only your family will be important to you, but every person, not just the people that make the news. You know, Roseanne Barr, she's a very hurt person. She's grown up with a lot of pain. I was actually watching, an investigative documentary on a certain part of America. It's the poorest right now part of America. There are white people there. The coal mines were closed down in that area. And the people there genuinely trust in Donald Trump to help them because no one has ever recognized them. He's the first to go down into their area and actually care about them. And what was interesting about this is that as people in their localized areas started to work with them, and I listened to their stories, I almost broke down and cried because I realized this is a story of all of us. And I started to shake my mind for solutions to their problems. I started to rack my brain to think about it. What could they do with what they have? And how they could turn that situation around and empower themselves so they don't have to depend on a government. They don't have to depend on anyone. They could do it. And I've been thinking about them. And these people, if I were to ever come face to face with them, probably they would chase me away because of my color, because they're not used to seeing me, or maybe not. It depends on what comes to the table. You just never know. One of the things I do know is there is a need to help real people and bring real solutions in this world, politics or not, however possible. And it hurts my soul when I see these things happen. And I gotta say, I think it should hurt your soul too. But then again, how much do we actually care about anyone in this world? How much do we care about people in places we even never heard any news about? That these people are struggling. Do we seek out these people? Do we look for them? No, we don't. Because we really don't care about those people. They're not in our thoughts, not in our mind. We don't even blink an eye for them. And the need is everywhere, guys. All over the world, there are people who genuinely need help. And we can use these platforms for many things. But we must always remember that these platforms are for us to spread love as best as we can to as many people as we can, however we can. And as a group and as a collective, that's what I hope for each one of you guys out there. I don't say these things in a vacuum. I truly believe these things. And what I'm about to talk about in Justice League has a lot to do with this, and Batman v Superman too, and the DCEU in general. It's about worlds coming together. So let's get into it. So, oh boy, I'm wondering if the audio on this thing is working. We'll see in a minute. Oh boy, I'm wondering if this, okay, the audio is working. Great, 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 great. That's top class. I was just checking. Okay, so we're going to get into what we're going to talk about with Justice League. Oh yeah, this is good, this is good, this is good. So, first and foremost, you know, it's interesting when people make certain statements about fictitious characters, particularly superheroes. I remember back, I can't remember if it was 2014 or 2013, when Zack Snyder announced, I think it was 2013, I think it was 2013, end of 2013, beginning of 2014, something like that. When Zack Snyder announced Batman v Superman. He didn't say Dawn of Justice. He just said Batman v Superman. He put the sign up. And all of Comic-Con went crazy. And people quickly, that's the detractors and the haters of DC, quickly said, why would Batman fight Superman? They're heroes. I remember that. And they were like, it's a stupid showdown. Superman will easily beat Batman. I remember all of that stuff that went on. The negativity, the hatred, because Zack Snyder said Batman v Superman. Later on, he put on Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. I remember all these haters and detractors came up in a frenzy and said, that's a stupid title. And I remember them bashing the movie and saying they should have left out the Dawn of Justice part in Batman v Superman. It should have just had Batman versus Superman. I remember all these stupid, stupid, stupid things people said. I remember it. And the hate over the idea that someone could come out with something visionary. Not to mention, Captain America Civil War was a versus film between two heroes as well that came right after Batman v Superman. But what was interesting to me was the substance in Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, and how it carried over to Justice League. And one of the points I wanted to point out to you guys is that ideologically, though two people may be for the same thing, they may approach it different ways. And not only because they approach it different ways, that can separate them or have them pit against each other. but also the fact that those different ways may clash against each other. They can actually diametrically oppose one another. Take, for instance, world peace. Adolf Hitler was thinking of world peace just like anybody else. In fact, he thought that the way of Catholicism and the way of the Jewish way of doing things was wrong. He actually believed in God. Hitler was not an atheist. He's a God-fearing man. At least, that's what he believed. And he felt he was doing God's will. And I'm saying the world ended up in a World War II crisis because the world started pushing back and saying, this is just not the way to go about getting world peace. The world believed that sovereignty of nations was important, as well as fair treatment and equity as much as is possible amongst your population, irregardless of religious belief and background, culture and ethnicity, race and class. Everyone should have potentially a fair chance to exist with each other as much as possible in peace. Fundamentally, Adolf Hitler's stance and Aryanism, which is trying to move towards a world of utopia as he saw it, and as many people in Europe saw it as well, in that trying to take back rights and equity and so he saw it as this was the way to equalize the playing field. But the world said, no, that's not the way to go. And that's why we had World War II. Now, Batman had a certain ideology that opposed the ideology of Superman. His ideology opposed to Superman's ideology because of who Superman was. Superman was not from Earth, therefore he was an alien to Earth. He came from another world. And he was implementing his power and using his otherworldly power to assist and get involved in the daily workings of a world where human beings existed. And Batman thought that Superman, like many other people on the earth, thought that Superman's power needed to be kept in check, that Superman was causing too much collateral damage everywhere he went, that he was a danger to the world. However, Batman was also, like Superman, wanting to see the world become a better place, wanting to see the earth do well. And so the ideological clash led to Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. Batman had his own way of doing things, which was preventative. Superman was more of affirmative. He was a person who would do things to make sure if things happen that people could be saved. Superman was more of a savior type. Batman was more of a preventative type. Let's prevent this before a catastrophe happens. Superman was about, if a catastrophe happens, I want to be able to assist and help people. I want to be the savior type. Batman, the preventative type. Two different ways of approaching heroism. And so as a result, we had this clash. Now, here's the interesting thing about all of this. In this schematic, Batman goes up against Superman. He's going up against a super-powered alien in Batman v Superman, and gaining experience in how to tackle and approach a very devastating alien that could just annihilate him. And he was able to win in a physical battle against that alien. through this whole process, he had nightmares and he had seen the future or a possible future. He had been spoken to, so that he was in his quest to try and take down the superpowered alien. He finds out there are more these superpowered beings around, of which one he has met. And it's changing his perception of this superpowered alien as he moves along, until his final encounter with the superpowered alien, in which his mind is completely changed and he realizes the threat is not with this superpowered alien. But then he meets another superpowered alien he can't even tackle. He's no match for that one in Doomsday. And he has to get the assistance of this superpowered alien, as well as another inhabitant of Earth who's not of Earth, to take down this devastating superpowered alien that's more powerful than all of them. And it cost the superpowered alien his life. But in the process, Batman is being prepared for what he is to face in Justice League. And the next time Batman faces another superpowered alien, he's able to take it down and capture it because of his experience in Batman v Superman. And so, very clearly, Batman v Superman serves not just as the dawn of the Justice League, where we see the three major leaders of the Justice League there, Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. And we see them take down a threat that's more powerful than all of them. But also we see that it is also the preparatory ground, because Batman had a difference in opinion with Superman. He was able to prepare himself to face superpowered beings. Batman had never faced superpowered beings on that kind of magnitude or scale as a Superman before. This was the first time. So he had experience under his belt and was able then to face similar beings like Superman with their superpowers, and they could fly and all of that he saw in his nightmare, in addition, in Justice League. And he knew how to coordinate an attack to take down these superpowered beings, which included Superman in the process, because of his experience in BVS. Showing that Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, is not only Dawn of Justice in terms of the Trinity being there, and also we seeing glimpses and cameos of future founding members of the Justice League in there, but also in the preparatory phase, the dawning phase for Batman to face superpowered beings on a level he's never faced before in Justice League. And to me, that's how deep Zack Snyder goes. You can say what you want about Justice League. When it comes to the story and what was prepared for this story, it flows with Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Of course, it's not the pinnacle crowning act. I've completely understood that Zack Snyder has so much more to tell us in Justice League. But that's not the point. The point is, when you look at the holistic story and the story arc of Batman, it's there. Let's move on. So Batman in Batman v Superman, he is dealing with Superman, a superpowered alien that can fly. And in Justice League, we see him first greeted, the first ever bit and piece of Batman in Justice League picks up where Batman is actually hunting down a superpowered alien in a Parademon scout, which leads us into the Parademons. Now, I said that there are different worlds going on in the DCEU, and we will discuss that more in detail, but I just wanted to make mention that this particular world that we're talking about is a world that is in the pits of hell. It is in another world. It's a different world, and it's known as Apocalypse. It's the world of the new gods. It's a new god world, and it's the equivalent of hell. Apocalypse. And so we've seen apocalyptons in Batman's dream, with his alternate reality of the future. And we saw apocalyptons depicted by the Kryptonian ship speaking to Lex Luthor, but we had never seen apocalyptons in the reality of the DCEU until Justice League, where Batman first encounters a Parademon scout of Steppenwolf's army, aka Darkseid's army from Apocalypse. This is the first time we're now introduced to the real Apocalyptons. We had not seen a real Apocalypton. We had a dream about Apocalyptons with an alternate reality. We had seen the ship's depiction of the Apocalypton Steppenwolf with the mother boxes, but we'd never seen a real Apocalypton until Justice League. So we now see Apocalyptons from the Apocalypton world, though they weren't living in Apocalypse because they were exiled. So they were somewhere else. But wherever they were, they came from, and they were now scouting around the Earth. Maybe they were on Earth. Who knows? But now they were moving around Earth looking for mother boxes. I want to talk a little bit more about the consistency of the Parademons, because I think a lot of people are talking about how these Parademons, they were going to be something else, and I absolutely disagree with that. While I do agree that the color palettes and how the depiction of these Parademons were in terms of color palette and tone of the Parademons, that is, the colors and how they allowed the Parademons to be, the images to be seen, meaning the cinematography of the Parademons, not the CG rendering of them or anything like that, but the cinematography of the Parademons was a little bit different. All right. But when it comes to the Parademons themselves, the person responsible for that is Patrick Tatopoulos, who was the concept designer for the Parademons. And up here you see Patrick Tatopoulos' design of the Parademon for Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. And it literally looks like that. But if you look at the design of the Parademons in Justice League, they are pretty much the same. Now, there are some slight changes, but I want to just say, first and foremost, Patrick Tatopoulos, once again, was responsible for the final concept design of these Parademons. But there's some variations in their armor that's on the outside of their bodies. Their armor is a cybernetic armor, very much like Cyborg's cybernetic armor that he has. Parademons also have a cybernetic outer armor that covers their bodies. Okay, so they're creatures inside of cybernetic armor. That's what Parademons are, and I'll show you what I mean a little bit later on. But anyway, these are the Parademons here. You see a little circle here. There's the Omega symbol right in here. You can't see it. It's a little bit too dark for you to see. Let me try and zoom it up so you can take a look at it. Well, you might not be able to see it better here. Let me see here. Let me try and get it sharper. There you go. Nice and sharp. Yes, you can see the little Omega symbol in there. See the little circle there? And it kind of rolls back this way. Okay, so that's the little Omega symbol in there for the Parademon. And all of these are cybernetics that help them to see and move around and all of that stuff. And they can see in the night and all of that, night vision goggles and stuff. And if you look at BVS, you'll notice this Parademon specifically has a certain design to him. You see the kind of rib-like stuff here, but he's kind of covered. He's more in black, deeply, he's deeply within this armor that's put around him. You can see in BVS that looks exactly like that. Now in Justice League, it's a little bit different, the armor. It's a little bit more up to date. Now you have the same design for the headgear and stuff. This stuff looks more silverish, and it's just again, it's the cinematography that's making these Parademons look a little bit different to what they really are supposed to look like. It's the cinematography. It's not the design of them. It's not the rendering of them. It's basically everything in the render is the same. If you look here, same wings, same head, same etched design inside of the head and all of that stuff. It's more or less the same. Well, this is a little bit different here. Now here, the nose piece, you see the piece of the nose coming out there. It's not exactly the same here. The nose ridge is a little bit longer, so you don't see their nose as much. Their mouths are about the same. This one looks more vampire-like. But this is more of a grimace, so you can't really tell. Let me show you a little bit more of these Parademons and their design. So here's the design from Patrick Tatopoulos again. Again, this is from BVS. This is the BVS design. And you can see in Justice League, the design was almost identical. In fact, the same kind of armor. There's the Omega symbol right there. There's the overall armor on the outside. All this is Patrick Tatopoulos. Here, I just put these two back so you can see it compared to these two. Okay, so this is BVS design. This is Justice League design. This is when we were talking about the first Great War. the first age. And here's the design again for Patrick Tatopoulos. And I'm just showing you again from BVS here, and here it is again in Justice League. And this is basically the identical armor here. There's the Omega symbol I was telling you about here. That tells you Darkseid's forces. And there's some interesting things about these parademons. We'll get into that too. But you can see the design is pretty much identical. All right, it's a similar design. This is the parademon's face here, and then the armor surrounds the parademon. You'll notice the wings. You're not seeing the parademon's wings here. This is not really a wing. This is actually a covering for their wings. I'll talk more about that as we move along. And you can see here in Justice League, the eyes glow red. Here's a parademon in the corner here. I try to get all his features so you can see him better. Now you can see that the new design is a little bit different to the older design. So here is the older design of the parademon, where he's kind of almost in leather kind of covering. There's no light beaming out from his chest and stuff. But in Justice League, the parademons actually have a glow on the inside. Now you notice their eyes are glowing red here. I'm not quite sure if red eyes and yellow eyes signify a different kind of parademon, or if it's just a mood of the parademons. I don't know. I would love to know more about that. But you can see their chest also glows up here, and they're carrying these heavy weapons as they move around. Again, Patrick Tatopoulos' design. And I'll show you more of this as we move along. I think a little bit further down in the video, I'll show you a little bit more about that. So here we have the parademons here. Let me just come out of this for a second so I can just see what's going on in the neighborhood. Okay. Everything's okay so far. All right. Today, by the way, is a vacation. It's Indian Arrival Day in my country. So shout out to one and everybody out here. You can participate in this by participating in the chat section, which is over here. Chat section's over here. So you can always talk up a storm in the chat section. Don't just be watching this thing. Talk to me. Give me some feedback so I can know that you're here. I'm going back to what I was saying. I was just going to look to see if anybody's here and then move on from there. All right. So I was just checking to make sure that, because I know a lot of you guys go up in the chat section. Let me just hold on a second here. Okay, so let me go back to what we were doing. Okay, so here I'm just showing you that these particular parademons have a similar design to a cyborg. And again, I believe that the actual armor that surrounds the parademons, not the parademons themselves, but the armor that surrounds the parademons, is a similar sort of living sort of armor as with Cyborg. And that's why Steppenwolf could say a creature of chaos. And if you look at these parademons there, again, their eyes glow. This time their eyes glow yellow. So these may be scouts. If you looked at the scout that Batman interfaced with back here, he was also glowing yellow and he had yellow eyes. So it probably could be that the yellow eyes refers to the scout parademons. All right, so scout parademons seem to have yellow eyes. And if you look at their body design, it's very similar to Cyborg's body design, telling us it's apocalyptic technology, that the mother boxes had something to do with them. All right. Again, these high things here are not wings. These are not wings that they have. These are actually covers to actually protect their wings. They close in. I'll show you what I'm talking about so you'll understand. So if you look at Cyborg here, he has a very similar body design, especially down below here, to the parademons. But the parademons actually light up in a specific kind of way. Cyborg lights up a different kind of way to the parademons. And again, I think this is the body armor of the parademons. The parademons are under that body armor. And there are different kinds of parademons, so we'll talk about that. But just look at how the outer armor is very similar to Cyborg's outer armor. Let me just zoom in so you can have a look at that. So you can see the details here. So if you look here, Cyborg has that kind of endoskeletal kind of muscular thing going on there on his armor right there, as the parademons do. They have two of them. They also have the same head plate, like Cyborg has a head plate here. So you see Cyborg has a head plate that his head fits in, and then a portion of Cyborg's face is seen and a portion of the parademon's face is seen. So you can see right here. So the parademon here, let me just zoom in a little bit more so you can see. The parademon here, his eyes are lit up as well. And you can see it's yellow. So this is a scout, more than likely. His eyes light up, and so does Cyborg. He has a red glow. for his face and eyes. So you have to understand this is the machine part of Cyborg, to which the mother box is also given life. Now, the interesting thing about these parademons is when you look at them, they actually light up three red glowing boxes light up within the armor of these parademons. And it exploded this parademon when he was caught. I'm not quite sure what the connection is, how that happened, why that happened. But this parademon we know is a scout. He was chained down. I still think his hands could have cut through that barb unless it was some kind of special material that Batman had to keep the parademon from coming out. But anyway, you can see it has a red glow for the eyes. You can see that his chest it's actually 3 lights within the chest. And that refers to the 3 mother boxes, which it explodes with. And here you see the 3 mother boxes here. So these parademons are born, and they're not born of the mother boxes. Of course, Steppenwolf's blade kills whatever creature. It rises back up, feeds on fear, but it seems as though it's armored up. The creature is armored up with this this armor, which comes from the mother boxes. Something to do with the mother boxes arm these parademons up, and they are, they have cybernetics that incorporate with their bodies, kind of like Cyborg, kind of like Superman. Okay. Now, here's the interesting thing I was trying to tell you guys. So here you can see the back things, which are not wings. This part here, it folds in and closes in like this. And then their lower wings or appendages seem to fold up into it, so that when they're not flying, they don't actually have to keep their wings out. You see here, this parademon is approaching. And again, parts of this parademon are real, and parts of this parademon is cybernetic, like a foot soldier. So I thought that was interesting for you guys to see here. And again, it seems as though we have different types of parademons. So here, Jeremy Hanna was responsible for showing you the parademon that looked more, I think, more like a scout parademon. So you see the yellow eyes here. And this literally showed up in BVS. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Now, so this is it from afar. This is Jeremy Hanna was responsible for this design of the parademons, which we saw here in BVS. So these parademons here, remember them? See, they have weird looking feet, and they run, and they have extra appendages on them besides wings. And here is one in flight. Jeremy Hanna was responsible for the design of those parademons in BVS. But then we saw other parademons which actually had properly formed legs. And if I just go back a little bit, you'll see one of them here. So this parademon has properly formed legs. He's got these kind of things, and then he has these wings on him, right? And this parademon is by Patrick Tatopoulos. He designed that parademon, which is this one right here. Let me see if I can get him again. This is him again. And let me see where else we have it. I think I have it somewhere else here. And here it is. So this here is the parademon, which, and here's some more. Here are some more with their legs and stuff. This is a different parademon to the parademon that you see flying, some of them flying in the sky, like this one here and this one here. Okay. This one, however, is different to that parademon. So there are 2 different kinds of parademons. These parademons are this parademon. Okay. That parademon is what you're seeing there. These. So Jeremy Hanna, he was responsible for designing this kind of parademon, which I think is a scout parademon of some kind. But, it can take up things and take up people. And then Jared Marantes, he started off doing a parademon. He said he began designing this kind of parademon, which really falls in line with this parademon that we saw here. And this was for Justice League. Okay. But then they morphed that design and changed it into this, where he didn't have 2 pairs of hands anymore, or like a raptor kind of hand. And he didn't have 3 pairs of wings. Well, actually, he has 3 pairs of wings here. So this was his design here, but that morphed into this, the scout parademon with yellow eyes. All right, which Patrick Tatopoulos, again, came in hand with. So if you look at Justice League, you will not see any parademons with these kinds of legs on them, like you saw in BVS. You won't see those. And you won't, this was the design they were trying to go with, and they aborted that. So you won't see that in the Justice League movie. You actually won't see those. Isn't that interesting? You'll actually just see they all look more or less the same as parademons. So these parademons that we saw in BVS, we actually don't see them in Justice League. Now, I don't know if Zack Snyder had any plans to get those parademons out. This is, again, some more early designs of them where they kind of took the flaps, put them up, closed them back in. He was testing out stuff here. This was the early concept designs. And it's kind of, it's not similar to Cyborg at all. Cyborg has a totally different design to that, but it does kind of segue me into Cyborg a little bit. And the interesting thing about Cyborg is his prosthetics can evolve, they can change, they can morph into different things. Now, Parademons' bodies can't morph into many different things. They're actually biogenic animals. So, for instance, they were trying to get a biomimicry for these Parademons. They look partly like an insect with 6 appendages. You got this one, and their foot. So they were more insect-like, like a locust. See, and you got 2 pairs of wings, plus you got the caps to pull these wings in. So that's what they had for this particular type of parademon. There was 2 types, remember. So that's what they were going for. I don't know if they were to have those kinds of parademons in Justice League. I don't know if Zack Snyder would have done that. Cyborg's totally different to that. So of all the parademons, they can't just form weapons with their hands. They can't morph. Cyborg's a little bit different. He can morph into different things. So the Mother Box technology made his prosthetics or his cybernetics do some special things. And one of them is he could form a cannon out of his hand. He could form a shield out of his hand. He could be a rocket launcher. He could be a sonic blaster. He could do various things. All right. And we saw him morph, actually, his head even morph into like a sort of battle mode, which we did not see in Justice League, which I was longing to see in Justice League. So his head just kind of changes into battle mode here. It's really cool. Really, really cool. So Cyborg's different, definitely, to the Parademons in terms of his armor and what his armor can do. And it seems to upgrade every time he interfaces with some sort of superior technology. So when he interfaced with, for instance, the Kryptonian ship, his cybernetics upgraded. When he interfaced with the Mother Boxes, his cybernetics again upgraded. So it's really interesting how Cyborg keeps on changing and changing. But it's so interesting that the alien technology that assisted him in coming back to life is pretty similar to, he kind of looks similar in structure and how he's constructed like the Parademons. So I find that very interesting. He's got similar venting structures and so on him, like the Parademons do. And let me show you. Here are the Parademons here. Now you got the Patrick Tatopoulos version of the Parademons, and then you got them with the vents on them and the lighting on inside of them. Let me see if I can zoom up so you can see this a little bit better. There you go. That's good. What was interesting, you didn't actually have different size Parademons. This is just a Parademon floating in the air there. But here is a CG rendering of a Parademon here. And you can see he has a very similar structure. Not exactly. I mean, his structure is a little bit different to Cyborg, but especially his mid region is very interesting. His eyes, his head, and how the endoskeleton or the external armor fits around this Parademon is very interesting. Reminds us a little bit of Cyborg. Here, this is Patrick Tatopoulos, where you don't actually see anything lighting up. This is a variant of the Parademon that he has a yellow kind of outer surface. I'm not too sure why. And you see Patrick Tatopoulos' signature there. And then this is a CG rendering of a Parademon and how he works and operates, seen from the back. But again, the back of the Parademon is very much like the back of Cyborg. And again here, very similar core structure, eyes and wings. I know you can't see everything, but I just wanted to show that. Excuse me, I just clicked something by accident. Okay, so I just found that very interesting. And then, oh, this is beautiful. This is a gorgeous picture where it kind of replicates what you may have seen in the comics with Parademons in a comic book. So here's the shot of the Parademons chasing down the Batmobile. And, you know, they're known for their numbers. The great thing about Parademons is when they are in tremendous numbers, they can overwhelm anyone. They're like locusts. And here you can see them in tremendous numbers. You saw them in tremendous numbers when they took down Steppenwolf. And here they are in tremendous numbers going after the Batmobile. And really, they are no match. Batman is no match for them. And it's kind of interesting, though, how Wonder Woman and the Flash and Aquaman were able to kind of fend them off from Batman. I thought that was kind of interesting and a kind of suspension of disbelief, because Parademons just keep coming, you know. So I want to see what Zack Snyder's version would have been, because there's a number of instances where I thought Parademons did not behave like Parademons in Justice League. One of them I thought was where they were taking on Steppenwolf, and none of the Parademons were coming down on them in tremendous numbers. You know, the Flash was knocking off some of them, I know. Batman was trying to shoot down some of them, I know. And the Cyborg was busy with the Mother Box. Those Parademons should have just been coming down like hordes on them. You know what I mean? And the fact that we missed out a lot of key points in the action sequences to know, well, what happened to these Parademons, you know, because how did Batman get inside of the lair of the Parademons to meet Steppenwolf? How did Aquaman get there? Okay, Flash got Cyborg in there, fine. But how, and then aren't there supposed to be a whole bunch of Parademons pouring in after them to take them down? You know, I didn't understand that part. And even Wonder Woman, how she got there and no Parademons were really taking her down. In a real scenario, Parademons would just be swarming everywhere. So I didn't buy into that logic, especially where the Justice League basically pulled all their attention. Instead of having Batman distract the Parademons, they basically brought all attention to all of them. So I thought all the Parademons would come down on them. How were they going to fend them off? That's what I wanted to know. So some of this doesn't make much sense if you really think about it. And you have to suspend your belief, because it was like you trying to distract these Parademons to get to Steppenwolf. Now you're pulling all these Parademons on you. You should be dead, right? You know what I mean? Either you should be dead or you have some kind of plan to really just kick their butts like crazy. I mean, so I didn't quite understand it, but it is what it is. I'm sure Zack Snyder's version is going to be more flushed out. I think they cut out a lot of important scenes, which will help us to understand why the Parademons didn't just take them down. What, you know, we've seen images of Aquaman just really just leaping in the air and just blasting Parademons. We know the Flash is pretty fast, so I'm thinking his speed would have cleared out some things. We know Cyborg blew up a couple of them. We know that Wonder Woman was kicking butt. Batman, he started shooting up a whole set of them with their own weapon. So, you know, these are things that you need to know, you know, and I don't think that I think they kind of washed down and watered down Steppenwolf as well. So we'll see all of that in the Snyder Cut. That's why we need to see the Snyder Cut, by the way. Don't forget in your comments, in the comment section as well, to put hashtag release the Snyder Cut. I know the tone of this movie was more like a Disney kind of kiddie kind of flick. I get it. I get it. I get it. So don't worry. I understand all of that already. That's a given. I understand. But now, as Justice League is going to be, you know, winding down to a halt at some point, we want this Snyder Cut. We're going full into the Snyder Cut. Don't worry, guys. We're looking for that. All right. Because I believe that Joss Whedon made certain decisions to tell the story a certain way. It's like, for instance, where Batman throws that bomb on the Parademon and you just see a big boom, but you don't see the Parademon's body, nothing. You know, that kind of like magic, poof, disappears the magic dragon. It's like stupid, you know. And we saw in the earlier cut with in the sneak peek that the Parademon actually goes backwards with the blast. And, you know, these are just important things that bear in mind. I know, guys, I know what your pet peeves are. I factored all of that stuff in a long time ago. I know some of the music just really annoys the crap out of you. And I know that kind of adventure feel instead of suspense and tension. I know what you're talking about. Trust me, I know. I saw all those things and I understand. Anyway, I just wanted to show you guys this quick tidbit. In the movie, where I just zoomed in on this Batman's cape. I already put this up on social media. This device right here is actually the Batman air defense cannon. And you can see here, not the Batman, sorry, the Parademon air defense cannon. You can see a Parademon right here shooting at Batman. Batman's dodging it and rolling out the way and stuff. And you can see in concept art, Batman was using it to shoot down the Parademons, which he probably did afterwards. He was shooting at a whole bunch of them once he got to that point. But they, of course, chose to cut that out of the movie for time. And we will get to see that in the release the Snyder Cut. I'm looking forward to a lot of stuff because there's a lot of stuff that's not inside of the theatrical cut. So there's lots to look forward to, guys. And if you guys like Zack Snyder's style, you know, the full-fledged Zack Snyder style with Junkie XL and everything, oh my gosh, I can't wait for it. So I really do want to see the Snyder Cut between now and the end of next year. If Warner Bros. Doesn't put that thing out, man, they're looking for suicide because, you know, nobody ain't gonna watch no more of the DCU movie. They'll shut down the joint. I'm just telling you. I know DC fans. They're gonna shut down the joint and demand the Snyder Cut, and they're gonna watch another DCU movie. I know how it goes. I know how it goes. Warner Brothers knows this too. So they'd be really stupid if they didn't put out a Zack Snyder cut. You're gonna be real stupid. You'll be committing suicide on yourself. Ain't nobody gonna watch no more DC movies until they get that Snyder cut. I'm telling y'all now, it's a warning. Remember, before I warned the Warner Brothers, you screw up, you will pay. Apparently, even I underestimated how much vitriol people can have, and I can understand why they had the vitriol. Don't get me wrong. I was ticked off when I was watching the movie. Certain things just really made me groan. But it was better than Thor Ragnarok, and it had substance in it, and so I let it go. I let it fly. But now I let that fly. I let that fly. I let Suicide Squad fly too. But now we want the Snyder cut. Don't play around with us, Warner Brothers. We want that cut. You're not going to roll on just like that. You're not just going to turn a blind eye and just do whatever you feel like doing. You will be destroyed. So do make sure and get that Snyder cut out there. Make sure you do that, because the people, the core base that sustain you, all right, they went on. They're actually, the core base still went and saw some of them went and saw the movie. All right. They didn't go and see 3, 4, 5 times like I did, or 10 times like I did, but they went and saw it. All right. And they got pissed off. So if you know what's best for you, you release the Snyder cut. I don't care what your plans are for the future. You better release that. I'm just saying. Anyway, that's all I got to say about that. I ain't got nothing else to say. So anyway, yeah, the Parademon air defense cannon is dope. I loved it. I was glad I caught it. But of course, I saw that some other fans had already caught this before. This is actually old news for the Snyder Cut people. They already saw that there. And they also saw it in the sneak peek ad that they had. So it was in both. So that showed that Zack Snyder really was going to have Batman, and probably has footage of it where Batman is shooting the Parademons and stuff. In fact, Zack Snyder and Vero actually talked about that. So there you go. So, man, it's just so much epic moments still to come, folks. So if you're itching to see the Snyder Cut, man, whoo, like I am, there's a little damper in my heart because I didn't get to see that particular cut, and so there's a little downer, and I'm like, man, I wish I didn't see I didn't wish I didn't see Justice League, and I just look forward to this. But it's okay. I still want to see the Snyder Cut, and I still want to see, and I hope that Warner Bros. Puts no time limits and no time restrictions on this cut. Let us have everything. Let's have everything. And if Zack his original vision was to have Steppenwolf a certain way or whatever, I don't care. Let it be. Just now that the movies all been out of the theaters and everything, now we just want to see the Snyder Cut. And if it's really, really good, people are really, really going to buy it. They're going to buy it, and Justice League sales are just going to go through the roof. You know what I'm saying? Because the word of mouth is the best thing in the world. You might not have enough stock. So if I were y'all, I get that Snyder Cut out as soon as possible. Of course, I know this run has to finish with that, and it's all good. I mean, this run, I will remember this movie anyway, because like I said before, it's solid. And it's a movie that was entertaining. It was solid. It reminded me that it was a clash of both worlds. You could clearly see that Zack Snyder's standards are way beyond Joss Whedon when it comes to this type of movie, this kind of style. Joss Whedon is good at a certain kind of movie, a certain kind of style, and he should stick to that. But Zack Snyder does a certain kind of movie, a certain kind of style, and you should just let Zack be Zack. That's the thing when you have one director who has done a whole lot of work on a movie, and you have to bring in another director, and in the studio itself wants a different kind of tone, a different kind of feel, because they feel this is the way how they're going to be able to sell their merchandise. And every time the studios try to judge Zack Snyder, they have been horribly wrong. I hope Warner Bros. Learns their lesson, that sometimes, especially with certain directors, you should just go with the director. Go with the damn director. Go with the freaking director. Go down the ship. Go down sinking with that director. Because when a director puts all that passion, Patty Jenkins put all the passion, all the zeal in Wonder Woman, you got a great movie. As controversial as Zack Snyder is, if you let him put all his passion and all his stuff into his movie, you're going to get a good movie. Now, There will be people who will still hate his movies. Yeah, but guess what? He's being consistent. If he's consistently making time after time high quality movies, that's what you want. So Warner Brothers, for the last time, because y'all keep on screwing it up, let your directors do what they're doing. And if they're not doing it and you're putting it in somebody else's hands because you feel you have an idea of what the movie should be, just remember, you may shoot yourself in the foot, because you guys, as management wise, sometimes, man, y'all gotta make some really, really poor decisions on what to take out of a movie and what to cut out of a movie. You take out the best stuff from a movie. You took out the best stuff from BVS. I'm pretty sure you took out the best stuff from Justice League. Obviously, you guys don't even know what fans really like and appreciate. And so it's like, you know, you keep shooting yourself in the foot, Warner Brothers. And I'm a friend of you guys. I'm defending you guys. But you keep shooting yourself in the foot because you keep on changing up things that don't need to be changed. The DCEU did not need to be changed. It was doing fine. Patty Jenkins has her style. David Ayer has his style. And you still interfere with David Ayer's style from what we learned. And David Ayer had something much more fantastic than what you guys provided out there. Now, I'm not talking about the extended cut, because as far as I'm concerned, the extended cut was not that much greater. I thought the theatrical cut was better than the extended cut of Suicide Squad. But I heard, and from David Ayer's mouth, that there was going to be more interaction with the Joker, and the story was actually richer than was provided. So even the extended cut is not true to what it was. And so all I'm saying is, why do you interfere with what the director is trying to do? They obviously put their heart and soul into the thing. So let them do what they do. You say you live and die by your directors. You really do. You live and die by your directors. But these days, you're just tampering with stuff that doesn't need touching, quite frankly. Now, you did your survey. The audience liked certain things. You did your survey with Justice League. The audience liked certain things. But I'm going to tell you right now, sometimes those audiences that you bring in, because they're seeing something fresh for the first time, and they have no idea what Justice League is about or whatever, sometimes those audiences give you a false indicator of what's really going on. Now, Suicide Squad did pretty well. Justice League got a bad rep even before it was going in, so there was a big uphill climb. But I'm talking about in terms of PR. But let's make it abundantly clear: if you don't believe in your directors, Warner Brothers, then why are you making movies? Why are you making movies? That's how you've always been. You rode and died by directors. You've always, though, had a history of taking directors who really bring something new to the table, that changed the game, like guys like Tim Burton. You guys mistreated Tim Burton. He was supposed to do Batman Forever, not this stupid guy called Schumacher. Why do you guys make such stupid decisions? You go with Tim Burton. He was going to do Superman Lives. We later learned Superman Lives would have been really revolutionary. Okay, say what you want. It would have been revolutionary. And as much as people talk about, I still say Batman Returns, not Batman 1989, Batman Returns is the best Tim Burton film with Batman to date. Batman Returns, not Batman 1989, as everybody says. I think the best Tim Burton Batman film is Batman Returns. You can say Tim Burton-y as much as you want. He was revolutionary in terms of Catwoman that he brought to the table. Danny DeVito's Penguin, while a little bit more darker and crazier than the normal Penguin, was still Academy Award worthy. Okay. Then we had the Penguin, we had Catwoman, and then we had this guy, I forgot his name was, the tycoon. An incredible story. I love how it ended and everything. That movie had a tremendous impact on me as a kid. And if you got a director like Tim Burton that was doing an excellent job, I don't care what anybody says out there, excellent job with the franchise. Revolutionary. Yeah, the critics don't understand shit, so forget them. But he was revolutionary. The dude is doing Superman Lives with Nicolas Cage. You trusted him with a guy called Michael Keaton, who was a comedian. Nicolas Cage was a comedian, yes, but you trusted him to start the process with Superman Lives. And then not only do you take from Tim Burton, listen, Tim Burton was supposed to do Catwoman, with Michelle Pfeiffer. He was supposed to do Superman Lives, and he was supposed to do Batman Forever. The reason Michael Keaton pulled from Batman Forever and Val Kilmer ended up in there was because he did not believe in what they were going to put on the screen concerning Batman Forever, which was a joke. Batman Forever was a joke, and Batman and Robin proved it was a joke. And Warner Bros. Continuously makes this stupid mistake. They feel it must be jokes, 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 comedy, 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 sell toys, sell toys, sell toys. And it always backfires on them. The highest selling Batman comic and the highest selling Batman toys happened because of Batman 1989 and Batman 1992. Those comic book movies put Batman on the globe on a whole other level. Yet you continue, Warner Brothers, to feel sell toys and stuff. You need to make jokes. You need to be like Marvel. You need to be fluffy and light. The Adam West days for comic book movies are gone when it comes to Batman. When Christopher Nolan came in with, I didn't even like Christopher Nolan's movies, but Christopher Nolan came in with straight, plain, trying to be hyper realistic, bland, because he's not really, there's no style or anything to his stuff. It's not even comic booky. Sort of real world, gritty, grimy, sort of realistic world. People loved it. Zack Snyder came with Batman v Superman, highest grossing film. As much as they criticized it, and there was a lot of hate towards that film, they always say Ben Affleck's Batman is the best. Batman has the best live action Batman ever. To this day, BVS Batman's Batman warehouse scene, nothing tops it. Nothing. Nothing in the comic books, nothing in live action movies, nothing in animated comics can top that warehouse scene. Nothing. And the funny thing about it is Zack Snyder has more footage on that scene. There's more footage on that shit. We know this because we've seen it in the trailers. Where Batman throws a guy through a box. There's more to that Batman warehouse scene, which I would love to see. And my point being, Warner Brothers, learn from your mistakes. You're not going to sell toys by going through the hee-hee ha-ha route like Marvel does. It's not going to ever happen. The base that watches DCEU, the base that has watched, and your movies that have done well in the DCU concerning Batman have always been movies that are not just laughs for laughs' sake. They just never work, especially with certain characters. Shazam is an exception to the rule. Shazam has always been a kid in a man's body. So Shazam, you can do that with Shazam because Shazam is that. Two things you need to understand. The Superman of Christopher Reeve's Superman's age, you try to put that on the big screen and it will flop. It's never going to happen again. That was once in a lifetime. That was in a different time, place, and era. You can do spoofs and comedies like how they did spoof on Batman, the parody of Batman in Lego Batman. That was a parody, so that worked. You can do a parody of Superman, but there's no way, in Lego movie or animation or whatever, but you're not going to do that in live action and get away with it. You're just not going to. It's not going to happen. You're not going to do a parody of Batman in live action. You're not going to get away with it. It's not going to happen. So, Warner Brothers, learn from your mistakes. I hope you guys don't screw up Aquaman and don't mess around with James Wan's stuff. Somebody needs to protect James Wan's property to make sure that Warner Brothers doesn't come in there, those suits, and just screw up that movie as well. Okay? Because they have a history of, I don't know why, runtime, and it must be light enough for kids to watch, which has never been the policy of Warner Brothers. Okay? They have always been edgy movies. They've always pushed the anvil and have always provided entertainment for older audiences. So stick to what you do so that there's an alternative to a Marvel movie. Okay? Because I can't sit in a theater and take a Marvel movie's characters and the people and the personality seriously. So let me have something that's not called X-Men, where I can watch the movie and have some more gravitas, more depth, and just do what you do best, Warner Brothers. You take risk, Warner Brothers. You don't go in there. People don't go into your movies to just laugh and get nothing when they leave. So stick with that. And those suits in those rooms, leave the movies to the people who can make them. Leave it alone. We don't want empty jokes. The other thing with so I'm just saying that again, while we are live here, so that these people understand. They need to understand these things because apparently they don't. Hey, Patrick Tatopoulos also had another parademon, which is much bigger than the average parademon. So this is the normal parademon. And then he had this super big parademon, which is called the alpha parademon. It's bigger than the normal parademon, which you see here. And it has a different kind of eyes. Let me show you. Let me blow it up a little bit. So its eyes are a little bit different to the normal parademon's eyes. Again, this is Patrick Tatopoulos doing this. This was for BVS. He wanted to introduce this parademon. In BVS, it didn't see the light of day, and it didn't see the light of day in Justice League as well. But it was a much bigger parademon. I thought I saw a bigger parademon in Justice League in one of the trailers, but I was wrong. It was just a parademon hovering in the air. There were no bigger parademons, apparently. I thought there were, but there weren't. So, yes. The final thing I want to talk to you guys about is the different worlds. So we talked about the apocalyptic world, basically, and that apocalyptic world actually came to Earth, not only in terms of parademons, but also in terms of mother boxes. It actually stayed on Earth for a while. And not only that, but it infused itself and its life into Earthlings. So you had the clashing of worlds where we have apocalyptic technology in the mother boxes, having a resident symbiont or a resident life force inside of the life of an Earthling or a Kryptonian. So we saw the Kryptonian world cross with the apocalyptic world. We saw the human Earth world and people of the Earth world. Excuse me for a second, because this thing is getting overheated. Right. We saw the Earth world also clash with the Kryptonian world. So there were two different worlds that collided there. And I thought that was pretty interesting to bring forth something good. And we see also that Krypton, General Zod and his people, as well as Jor-El and his consciousness, collide with Earth again. We had that in Man of Steel. And then, of course, in Justice League, we have the apocalyptic world, the Atlantean world and the Atlantean peoples and their interaction with Earth. That's not very pleasant because Earth gives all their pollutants to the seas and stuff. So there's that world there. So we have, it's kind of like Star Wars almost. So we got all these different worlds, but they are all intermingling and clashing and stuff. And we're discovering them in 5 DCEU films, by the way, folks, which is pretty remarkable. We have the world of the old gods, which is pretty much gone, except for the remnant of it in Diana. And we have also the Amazonian world, which is still there, Themyscira, and all its peoples. We also have traces of the Green Lantern universe, because it's the Green Lantern Corps, and we saw that with the ancient Gallagher or Yalinger. We saw it in Justice League when he was working alongside the humanity and humans to face off against Steppenwolf and his forces. And we also had worlds from a parallel dimension, from another dimension. From the 13th dimension, we have Enchantress and her brother Ichabod, right? Ichabod and Enchantress, they come from another dimension, and they are, you know, for a season actually ruled over mankind. So you have that other dimension world. And then we also had, of course, the apocalyptic world. So we have a bunch of worlds out here that we've already mentioned in 5 DCEU films. And then we're going to talk about the world of magic, but not really a world per se. But we're talking about different worlds, actually, that we've seen in 5 movies of the DCU. And that's why I was talking about worlds clashing and colliding. And that that has to do again with communities, how people work together. Remember the first Great War, everybody came together, the Atlanteans, the Earthlings, I'm sorry, the Atlanteans, the humans, the different tribes of man, that is. We had the Amazonians, we had the gods, we had the uh, guardians from other places or worlds, and Yalangur, a Green Lantern, coming to assist. And they are facing off against another world, the Apocalypton world, with the mother boxes and the priest and Steppenwolf and the different kinds of parademons that come to face them. So, you know, we didn't have the Thanagarians there, though. Sorry about that. But it's just so interesting how rich the DCEU is and how these different worlds interface with one another and the remnants of these different worlds. And so I just thought this was interesting that you had all these different cultures in there and how they interface with one another. And this is basically symptomatic of our world. And, you know, with the X-Men universe, you don't really see much. You just see the mutants, humans. When you look at the MCU, it's mostly humans. We have one or two people from other worlds. We have people like now we have people from Titan world. We have Titan people. We have people from Thor's world. Asgard. We have Earthlings, and then I think we have people from, well, there's a representative of Groot from whatever world he comes from, and I think what's that guy's name? The warrior guy, his world. I think that's about it. Did I miss out any other worlds? No, most of it is Earth world, right? And so my point anyway is this, that you see a lot of mythology in the DCEU. And I think that's the beautiful thing about the DCEU. And I'm not comparing it to the MCU per se. I'm just looking at the different movies. When you look at the Transformers universe, for instance, you got the Transformers from their world, and then you just got Earth. See? There's not a lot of diversity. There's not a lot of worlds going on there. You see what I'm saying? When you look at the monster universe, you have 3 worlds. You have the monster world from, you know, Godzilla. You got the monster world from Kong, and you got the human world. And, you know, I'm just saying, Planet of the Apes, you got the ape world and you have the human world. And so I'm just saying that the kind of rich diversity that and mythos we've already gotten from all these different worlds we've already been introduced to in the DCU, it's so rich. And that's only 5 films we have dealt with. And look how many worlds we've dealt with already. And I just find that, again, another beautiful thing, another rich thing about the DCU. I just want to talk that with you guys while I was here with you all. All right, let me see what's going on here. Okay. So here we are. See a lot of people liking my video and stuff, but I'm not seeing a lot of people actually involved in the chat. Remember, in the chat section, you can talk unless you're having difficulties chatting in the chat section. Let me know what's going on, because here I am, just waiting for you guys to say something. Join the hangout or even participate in the chat. But back to what we were saying here. So this is what I wanted to show you guys here first and foremost, which had to do with the DCEU and just a lot of information I just kind of gave you guys on Parademons and what I think Warner Bros. Should do moving forward. They have Aquaman over the horizon. You know, I talked a little bit about Roseanne Barr and her racist statements, and that's symptomatic of a set of people and how they think. And it's one thing to think that way, but it's one thing to give yourself or to believe the things you're actually thinking. Well, if that thought pops in your head, that's one thing. I mean, if it pops in your head, you can still have the control to say, no, I'm not going to think that. That's not right. It's not accurate. It's not true. But it's another thing when you let yourself actually entertain that thought and be governed by it. So, guys, be careful with that, with racism. And we're talking about communities, again, of people from different worlds, how we can work together to do some really good things. I see the people still talking about gun control out here. I see people talking about inequity in terms of how minorities are treated and so on. I was listening to a lady talking about how Black Panther has really influenced her. The first time she's seen, you know, strong Black women characters in a positive light, in a positive role on the big screen. And she said she broke down and cried. I heard so many women talk about how, you know, for Wonder Woman, how they see some positive women models, role models in that movie, and how they broke down and cried when they saw the women in such a positive light. I just don't like when people lump together homosexuals with black people and other minorities in sense of homosexuals and homosexuality. In my opinion, it's not bashing it by saying, I'm not going to call people faggot or stuff per se or bash them, but at the same time, I think it's a lifestyle, and I don't think it has as much to do with if you're born homosexual. You're not born homosexual, if you understand what I'm saying. You may be born with the wrong gender, and maybe you have to change your gender, or you may be born with many physical gender twos, and you have to, prune it and fix it and weed it out so you can know what to do, But at the end of the day, it's an act that you may do in your life, and that's different, I think, quite frankly. So I'm born black. Like, I'm born black. That's just what I am. You know what I mean? People like to say, I'm born gay. I don't know about that one. If you know what I mean. You may be trapped in another body. Let's put it that way. If you say you trapped in another body, you're a woman, but you're really in a man's body, that's a totally different story to saying you're born gay, if you understand what I'm saying. Yes, you're gay in that you're attracted to other men because you're a woman really in a man's body, but you can always do a transgender change. And I'm not saying that's easy to do, and I know it still needs money. It's not cheap still. But you can do a transgender change like the Wachowski brothers did to become the Wachowski sisters, and it's all well and good. I'm just saying. I'm not saying it's easy yet, but it'll become easier in time. So that, practice of doing certain things and certain acts, I just don't agree that those things, the acts themselves, are acceptable. I just don't agree with that. I just don't. So I put my foot down on that. I was looking at certain things that happen in my country as well. They're talking about legalizing marijuana and decriminalizing it. And I'm like, you don't have to decriminalize a drug to get access to it. Take, for instance, cocaine. Cocaine is still used in dentistry. All right. But you can't go around using cocaine. It's illegal. Similarly, I don't think marijuana for medicinal purposes means that you need to decriminalize marijuana use. I don't agree with that. I understand that cigarette smoking and alcohol drinking are not criminalized, and it's because of a monopoly in the market, but that doesn't make it right either. Smoking nicotine and tobacco does not help your body. It destroys it. You're inhaling smoke. So there's no logic behind that. Now, there is other things like we were talking about in my country, where they were talking about the marijuana oils and how they are useful and helpful. And I know marijuana leaves are very useful as well, not only for glaucoma, but for a number of different things. And asthmatics can use marijuana, etc. Now, there's another thing that people don't know. In the sanctity of your home, you can use marijuana. You can smoke it, whatever. I think what people are talking about is the hypocrisy of using tobacco, which is definitely a pretty bad drug in it of itself. It causes a lot of disease and stuff. And marijuana is banned. I can understand all of that, but I'm saying two wrongs don't make a right. You know what I'm saying? And I know people chew tobacco as well. You can chew tobacco. You can grow your own tobacco. It's illegal to grow your own tobacco. I find that so stupid. Again, monopoly. But growing tobacco, the tobacco leaves are good. Well, you boil tobacco leaves and use them. So I'm not saying that tobacco is bad. But there are also aspects of marijuana, again, if unregulated, because unregulated, there can be a lot of bad things happen with marijuana. For instance, if you smoke marijuana, not if you boil it, not if you drink it, not if you extract oils from it. If you smoke marijuana, you actually get a certain product of marijuana that goes into your bloodstream and irreversibly attaches to your blood cells, causing you to get less and less oxygen uptake with time. Again, there are all kinds of bad things that can happen with marijuana when you smoke it. But then again, you don't have to smoke marijuana. What you can do is light the marijuana. And what guys back in the day used to do, the people who are indigenous to this region, the native people, as they call them. I don't like to call them native people even. But anyway, they used to fill a room filled with smoke, tobacco smoke and marijuana smoke, and then inhale that smoke. It's a little bit better than just inhaling smoke after you just lit something, but nonetheless, it's still smoke. Nonetheless, it got them high, and then they would go into trances and stuff. It's a spiritual kind of thing, and they start to see things, clairvoyance, and that kind of stuff. Nonetheless, what I'm saying to you guys is I would prefer to boil the marijuana leaves or to extract ingredients from the marijuana and use them. And again, I don't have a problem with that. But then again, that'd be for medicinal purposes. That doesn't mean you decriminalize the thing. And a lot of people think that decriminalizing marijuana will stop crime and people will not fight and stuff. No, it'll still be a power battle. I look in my country at certain contracts that are out there, and gang leaders, they monopolize people and they threaten people and they kill people for certain contracts. A criminal is a criminal is a criminal. A criminal-minded person does not have ethics. So I don't agree with that either. But what I would say is, absolutely, marijuana needs to be used in medication. It's very useful in medication. I knew this from way back in the day. It's a very useful herb. And again, growing marijuana, if you're not growing a crop of marijuana or a plantation of marijuana, having your single plant wherever you have it for whether it's recreational use or personal use in your privacy, I mean, police coming to raid you for one plant is just a bit on the negative side. You know what I'm saying? But if they do outlaw tobacco, you know, there's a lobby to outlaw tobacco, then they should outlaw marijuana. Because why? Why do you need marijuana? Why do you need marijuana? Nobody needs marijuana. And even if you're sick or whatever, you don't need marijuana. But it is a plant that is grown naturally. The other thing I want to make another point that is dangerous is that these days, what they call marijuana on the streets that's passing for marijuana is actually now highly processed marijuana that they're mixing other drugs into. So that, again, unless you're getting your marijuana from a tree, I don't think you getting marijuana. That's another thing to talk about another day. But we already know heroin is outlawed, but yet it can be acquired in a certain kind of form medically. Morphine medically. These are drugs you must get with a prescription. So no, I don't think that marijuana needs to be legalized. They don't legalize heroin. You don't legalize cocaine. Shouldn't have legalized tobacco to start with. I just think these things shouldn't be legalized. And I just think that anybody who has a license to produce these things in the fields or whatever, they should keep that regulated really well. And it should be for specific purposes. If it's medicinal purposes, you grow it for that. And you have your license for that. That's how I feel it should be going down. The law should make provisions for that. But I don't think it should be legalized. I don't think marijuana, it's like these weird things, the way people are trying to get buggery to be no longer a crime. That's just getting warped out there. Buggery is where you're having sex through your butt. You're having sex in your mouth. You're not supposed to have sex in those places. You're not supposed to. So what the hell, man? So the common decency and just, you know, that's where you go over the line. You know what I'm saying? There is no such thing as discrimination in this case. This just plain flat out wrong. Ain't nothing to do with religion or anything. Your butt wasn't made for things to go up it. Okay? It wasn't made for things. Things come out your butt. They don't go up your butt. Otherwise, you would have an organ to accommodate that. If you understand what I'm saying. You would have reproductive organs to accommodate that. You understand what I'm saying? If anything has to go up somewhere, then the body would have naturally made something for it to accommodate that. You know, does it make any sense to anybody out there? So no, I don't agree with that. Yes, let me go on to some other things I wanted to talk to you guys about, get it out of my system. So we're talking about different worlds, like I said before. And one of the things about different worlds is that's why we need discussion, is because people come from different angles and different perspectives on things. And I always agree, like some of the people, that I don't believe that there is truth is relative. I don't believe that nonsense. Okay. I believe there's certain things that are just true, and they are true. They are what they are. It's not subject to your interpretation of it. It is what it is. I'll give you an example. So we all know that if you step off of a very tall building and there's nothing below you, you will fall. This is not subject to interpretation. This is not relative. You know what I'm saying? This is what would happen. You would start falling. And we all agree with this. So we have to stop with the, rationalizing things which are not subject to rationalization. And we need to be sensible people. This is not about how I feel or how I'm tempted or what. Another thing, I'm gonna just go with promiscuity, where people just go and they have sex with different people. Okay, it's not right. It's wrong. Okay, there's no rationalizing that. Okay, can't be. Society used to frown on that. You're just shedding your oats all over the place. Oh, I'm a macho man. No, you're irresponsible. You're giving into feelings. You're giving into your selfishness. You want to satisfy yourself and you don't care about consequences. There's no responsibility there. That's not a true man. And when society says that's a real man, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You're not a real man. You're going to mind on those kids. You're going to have all that headache after when they calling you in for child support and you have to get your tail into jail because of that. You're not a real man. That's not a real man. So it's about time society starts speaking the truth on these things. And I just love to talk about this stuff because I just feel like everything's upside down in this world. They call him a ladies' man, a guy who sows his oats all over the place so he can have a good time. That is not real fathers, man. People of their households who take care of their families. Those are real men. Not leading them by a rod of iron, but trying to work out a relationship and set an example for their families. Do the best they can. Those are real men. And the single ones out there, they're respectful of the older people, of people of the other gender or other race. They're careful about what they say about people and they think about other people's feelings. That's real people, because it's harder to do in this day and age than just open up your mouth and blow out people or exercise your strength and physical skill or kill some woman and say you would love her after. You didn't love her. So I'm just saying, society has things upside down, man. You know, they have it upside down. Strength is not given in physical force. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, we're talking about the DCEU in different worlds, and we see that in the DCEU. We see that Superman, with all his strength and with all his power, is responsible with it. He doesn't just annihilate people who say, oh, I don't like him and he's a villain. He doesn't annihilate them. He watches in the news. You remember Superman watching in the news and he kind of shake his head. With all that power, if Superman wanted to, like Batman said, he could wipe out the entire world. Why doesn't he do it then? Because with great power comes great responsibility. And you are responsible to use that power wisely. A lot of people get power in this world and they use it irresponsibly. They use it for themselves. I remember this movie with Jim Carrey and Morgan Freeman. God, something to do with God. And how Jim Carrey later learned being God and having all this power is not for you to benefit from, but it's to help as many people as possible. And that it's an overwhelming responsibility. And that's the thing. A lot of us don't understand that. We feel power is for us to wield, deceive, and make the most out of the situation for ourselves. You get a big platform. You don't get that platform for yourself. You get it to benefit other people. They got it back for front. They let fame and fortune get to their heads and blow their heads up, and then they're not doing anything productive anymore. That's why you have to stay humble. Because it calls for even more humility. The more you get power is the more humble you got to be. Not fake humility. Functional humility. Humility where you do more for others. And that's what all politicians have lost sight of. All of them fight and squabble for power. A true person who really wants to use a platform will never fight and squabble for power. Never. Instead, They will use the power they have to make sure the people around them are better, so that more people can become powerful. They don't need to defend what they're doing, and they don't have to look good in the eyes of the public. They just do it. So remember that. And it doesn't matter what people call you. If you know you're doing the right thing that's helping other people, just do it. And start with your communities and keep doing it. All the people who did great things, they never at the time they were doing them, at least life-changing things that pushed the bar further, never at the time when they were doing them, they were praised for it. They were always condemned and assassinated, character assassinated, all kinds of things. So understand, when you're really truly doing something good for the world, that's what will come with the territory. And remember, it's different worlds you're going to clash with. And if you look at the DCEU, you see that when these different worlds clash, things don't always work out. It's not like these pipsqueak movies, these half-shod pieces of crap out there, which come and tell you, oh, they're just going to fight with each other for a little while, then they'll work together. It's not like that. It's not some script that Hollywood makes. It's actually difficult and long, and sometimes it costs people their lives. And other people regret. Sometimes you're the villain for a very long time. And long after you're gone, people appreciate you for who you are. You think of Jack Johnson, considered the villain by America. They were glad when the Great White Hope knocked him off his pedestal. At least certain people were. And for 101 years, this guy wasn't pardoned from the Mann Act, designed specifically to stop him from going around and charming the white women around him. So just remember that. Remember, when you push the bar on things and you start to shake up the boat, people are not going to like you for it. They're not going to say, good job. You're making the world a better place. No, they won't. They'll character assassinate you. Look at Zack Snyder's Batman v Superman. Look how much character assassination. They went for the jugular with that guy. The worst comic book movie in the history of comic book movies. What a movie. What a movie. You know, I don't try to portray myself in the best possible light. And in a lot of ways, I probably look stupid right now. I don't care. I know this is not a popular topic, and I don't care. But it's something that should be said. And so I say, I don't care. We got to talk the truth out here. We got to keep integrity, and we got to keep standards flying high. We got to tell people the truth. We cannot keep quiet, and we can't shut our mouths and condone things which are not right. Otherwise, we'll be held accountable for our silence. As a community, we silently watch other people get raped and assassinated in front of our face, talking figuratively, metaphorically, and also physically sometimes, where we should get involved in a situation, we keep quiet because we are afraid that we'll be attacked for it. We as a community must be vocal. When crime happens or tries to happen on our street, we should keep a wary eye out for our brother. We must be our brother's keeper. We don't want to mind our brother's business, but if we see somebody else coming to attack our brother, we must be there to protect them. Like that extra layer of armor that Cyborg and the Parademons have, created by the Mother Box. We must look out for all people. If we're truly patriotic, that's what we should do. I look at the veterans in the United States of America and how badly they're being treated right now by Congress and other people with laws that should have been passed so these people could get money. I look at the first responders in the United States of America and how hard and long it took for Congress to pass a bill on that. I don't even know if they have. And these people are sick. Let's talk about true patriotism. All of us want to talk about, oh, well, this person's not representing the flag. But what are you doing to represent the flag? What do you do when you put a big old boundary between yourself and your brother? Both of y'all are Americans, but he's black or he's Asian or he's Native American, and all of a sudden he's not American. I'm American. What are you doing? You guys got to stand together. And that's your world. And America is a huge place with a lot of diversity. I've learned that really quickly. And you still got to care for your brother. Your brother might make a mistake. Your sister might make a mistake. They're not perfect people. And they may be whatever persuasion they are. You may not agree with it. But you should respect them because they're more than just certain things that define them as far as people are concerned. You have to look for the positive in people to strengthen that and work with it so that you can optimize that. It's called nation building. And we are a global village as well. I'm saying all these things. I know different people are watching this video because I just feel I just need to say these things. I see too much. So I'm going to talk about it. Everybody's different, no doubt about it. But the only way we're going to get better, whether it's globally or nationally or internationally, how we're going to get better is if we are willing to truly see our communities and ourselves get better. Not going to get any better if today I'm the same as I was yesterday. What good was that? What good was it? And everybody's got something to bring to the table. So we collectively as a community can sit down and complain and attack each other and point fingers, or we can start to work and encourage other people and look for the positive things so we can build things with each other. It's up to us. And we're not always going to agree and see eye to eye on everything, and there's nothing wrong with that. So that's all I'm saying. And I believe that that's what Justice League brings to the table. That's what the DCEU brings to the table. And nobody will acknowledge it. I hear people talking about Black Panther, Black Panther, Black Panther, and they don't want to talk about Wonder Woman now. They don't want to talk about Justice League now. I don't hear them talking about Star Wars The Last Jedi now. But they know. They all know. They all know those movies really, really, really got the ball rolling on everything. But see, people still playing with partisan lines. Blue state, red state. MCU, DCEU. They still playing on partisan lines. They're not willing to appreciate things for what they are. Disney versus Warner Brothers or Fox or Universal or Sony. They're playing games. But you'll notice that people who see value in things, they're not playing no games. It's not about games out here. Anyway, I know this was Memorial Weekend, which was supposed to be for the veterans. I don't know how much people really care about the veterans or what they're doing for the veterans on Memorial Day, but they have the custom, they have the tradition. How many of you guys really care about your veterans? Say you do. But do you? Do you really? I'm just saying. So I thought I'd just share this stuff with you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. See, a bunch of people actually enjoyed it, but nobody was commenting on it, which is okay. I don't know what's happening with YouTube, if it's preventing people from commenting or whatever. I don't know what's going on. But at the end of the day, I just wanted to share this video with you guys. I hope you guys are having a great day, a great week. I was home for today because it's a holiday. Like I said, Indian Arrival Day. This was the day when the East Indian indentured workers first arrived on the shores of Trinidad and Tobago by the Chateau Rosac and some other ships that came in with the first set of indentured laborers. And of course, they got the short end of the stick. They didn't know what they were in for. It's one of those things, man. It's one of those things. So I hope you guys have a good one. There are a lot of us in this country who actually come from other parts of the Caribbean or other parts of the world. that we actually weren't born here indigenously, these are ancestry. So there's a lot going on there. You know, we got a lot of Venezuelans, Colombians. I myself, part of my family line comes from Venezuela, so it's just one of those weird things. I come from also Grenada, Barbados. It's just crazy. Martinique. You know, we're all over the place. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave your comments in the comment section below. I still haven't seen anybody put out any movies that they really enjoyed and liked in the past couple of in the past couple of days, man. The last video we're asking you, man, what were some of the good movies that you like? Too limited and stuff. But if you guys don't want to talk about that, it's all good and well and good. I'm peacing out now, guys. I gotta go. So you have a good one.